Okay, hi. So last week, it was last Friday, I had made my last video saying that I was going to start doing my projects, whatever it was, working on projects while I would tell my stories, that I was going to start doing that this week. So on Wednesday, I had a sewing lesson with a lady that I really love. Her name is Rosie. She's a little lady with a huge personality, 84 years old, of fire and knowledge and experience, and she gives 4 days a week. She gives 2 3-hour classes, sewing classes a day. And aside from that, she's still a tailor. So, I mean, who better to learn from? So, anyway, I've been with her for, it feels like a year, but I think it's been a couple of years already. It started, my relationship my student teacher relationship with her started a few months before lockdown last March, or March of 2020. So, anyway, so I'm still learning a lot, by the way. I'm a very, very beginner when it comes to sewing. So anyway, I bring my sewing machine to her. She's on the other side of town. I'm in Cape Town. So she's a good 10-15 minute drive, I guess 10-minute drive from the city center. So I Uber there. So I pack my Elna and my stuff and a couple of bags of, like, my tools and extra fabric that I had. And so, okay, I'm super excited. I get to her house. She teaches from her home. I get to her house and I haven't seen her in a couple of weeks, and oh goodness, we're all super happy that I'm finally gonna be, so what are you working on? And we're excited to see each other. And I open my bag and I don't have my fucking pants. So, complain for a few minutes. I feel like a total tool. I grab my stuff, grab the machine, request another Uber, and here I go. So I'm in another Uber on my way home. And it was kind of weird because usually, I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but usually I'm pretty quick to conversation with the drivers. And this time, I guess I was just bummed out. And because I couldn't do my class. And so he also, the vibe that I was getting was that he wasn't doing too well. He wasn't feeling too talkative, but whatever, I was wrong. And I was wearing a mask, as we do here in South Africa, because the vaccines started being dished out way late compared to everybody else, because, priorities. But anyway, so we're still dealing with this mask situation, and summer's starting. It's the end of winter here. And so I start complaining, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this for another summer with a mask in my face. And he's like relieved, that I said something. He's like, oh goodness, I was thinking the same thing. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then you could see that he really needed to talk. So I was completely wrong. I completely misread the situation. So anyway, and so we're talking, and then I don't remember how it came to this, but he started telling me that he was going through a really tough time, and this wasn't the kind of guy that, like, needed to, like, tell anyone who was going to listen that he was going through a hard time. He wasn't trying to get pity or anything like that. It was just like, it was just the right time for him, and I seemed to be the right person. And then he starts telling me, and I'm like, well, look, we've got some time. Talk to me. You don't know me. This is, there's that how can I say, like, I'm not invested in a relationship and a friendship with you, so I mean, go ahead, tell me. I'm a step removed, right, from whatever it is that you're going through. And so he starts telling me, and I couldn't fucking believe it. This was fate brought us together. I forgot those pants at home for a reason. I was supposed to talk to this poor kid. He's no older than 25. And he starts telling me that he's in this relationship with this woman that he learned to love, that he had a baby with, a little girl, 3-year-old child, and this woman was violent and manipulative and abusive, just plain old abusive. But I didn't realize that she was like physically violent yet. You know, he was telling me about how she was treating him and whatever, and I could see that this kid was really suffering. And the way that he was talking about what she was putting him through was very familiar to me. And I don't know if you saw my last video. I was talking about like changing your perspective. The minute that you change your angle a little bit, even if it's just a tiny, tiny bit, everything follows from that. And our lives change drastically when we just change our perspectives a little bit. Things just, it's just a chain reaction, you know. And so since I decided to start talking about my experience as the child of a female abuser, and the things that I've noticed in other abusive women, this happens on Wednesday. I believe that it was associated to that. And so I asked the kid while he's telling me what's going on, and I'm like, has she started hitting you yet? And he kind of like shrugs it off, but at the same time tells me like, oh yeah, that's been a while now and whatever. And I'm like, oh fuck, man. And so he's telling me about how his little girl throws towels over her head and she cowers and she's terrified of her mother and whatever. And I start telling him what I went through about how my father only defended himself once and he's never hit her back, you know, and she's hardcore and he's never hit her back. He's terrified. He doesn't believe in hitting women and the whole thing. And, you know, so he's just like, he's a good kid. He's taking care of this woman that obviously doesn't love him. That he's taking care of her and he's taking care of his daughter that he absolutely adores. Who's probably the only thing that came from this union, you know. And I ask him, I'm like, do you have family that you're close to? Do you have a good community, you know? And he tells me, yes, I'm very lucky. And she started trying to alienate him from that because she wants to control everything so that, you know, everything goes to her, all the attention goes to her. And so I told him what I thought, and I said, if you can get out of this, please get out of this, you know, do it legally, and get your kid away from that woman as much as you can, again, legally, because this will never get better, because they never do. You'll never get closure from the people that abuse you. And I'm looking at a camera right now, and I'm like I'm repeating this to myself. We don't get closure from the people that we want to get the closure from. The only person that will ever give us any kind of closure is ourselves. That's again, disclaimer. Everything I say is strictly my opinion, that is generated from my own life experience and by observing people, again, from my perspective, strictly my opinion. Everything that I talk about is only for purposes of discussion and education, I guess. I don't really know how to say this properly, but that's what it is. Anyway, so we finally arrive at my place, and we still sit in the car and continue talking. I guess he didn't have another customer set up, and so we're in front of my flat building, and we just keep talking, and then I realize, and I tell him, you know, I forgot my stuff at home today. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I forgot my stuff. That's why I'm in this taxi. That's why I'm in this Uber. I wasn't supposed to be here. And this is what you're going through. And so we both believed that this was set up by the universe. I also, to add to that, I think that it has something to do with my perspective and the actions that I started taking as of last week. So that happened. I really hope, I don't know what I can't remember what his name, I don't even know if I asked him what his name was, but that relationship, we were friendship soulmates for 17 minutes or whatever time it was that I was in the car. I really hope that he's doing well, and I hope that any of you out there who are victims of abuse and who are with manipulative people, that you can, you know, stand up, keep your heads out of water, and do what you need to do to get out of it. At the very least, to try to build from within. Because again, I repeat, they will never apologize. They won't get any better. Those are miracles. The people that actually want to become the best they can be are miraculous. They're very few and far between. Get your own closure. Do what you must. Oh, and then another thing, just to add. So another reason why I'm not doing any projects this week. That was a quick shift. Like, oh yeah, wonderful spiritual situation. Then, oh yeah, this is what happens. So this is another thing that happened. So on that same day, on that Wednesday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I figured I'm early. I'm going to start cooking. I have a physiotherapist that comes to our place on Wednesday afternoon. So I'm like, you know what? I'm useless after she comes. I'm going to start cooking dinner now. And I had an idea. I had a craving for vegetables that I cook in miso and, wonderful shiitake mushrooms and oyster mushrooms. And so I'll start making dinner now. And so I was going to make in rice paper these rolls with, and I made, a peanut sauce on the side with, ginger, garlic, and all that jazz. So just, I was really into it, but I listened to videos, I listened to true crime while I'm cooking. So I just set my iPad up and I'm listening to stuff and I wasn't paying attention and I sliced, that didn't feel too good what I just did there. I'm not that healed up. I sliced the like half my nail off while I was cutting a shiitake mushroom. Very tasty mushrooms. But, and I use a global knife, so global knives, by the way, I should advertise for them. I absolutely love my knife. It's my baby in the kitchen. I take really good care of it. Never goes into the dishwasher. I don't let anybody else touch it. I don't let anybody else wash it even. And yeah, it's a good knife. So clean slice right off. Floom. And so I've been doing everything less a thumb this week. And so there you have it this week. So today's Saturday, and no, there are no projects this week. Just a bit of a story, which is I find a beautiful story about the young man who was my Uber driver on Wednesday, and a complaint about my thumb. And that's it. I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. Hit like. It helps me out. I'm just starting here. So the more we play with that algorithm, the better, I guess. Live your best lives. I hope you enjoy your weekends. And see you next week. I'm healing quite fast, so see you next week.